Toleration be the love. Before pride and exaltation be the love. Be the love.
You are listening to Be the Love, transcending through the shadows into a higher state of consciousness. We are souls on the journey, opening up the conversation to heal, awaken, and connect ourselves and the planet to a higher vibration of love frequency. It starts with you. Everything you need is within you. This is your time. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez, and we are your co-hosts at Be the Love podcast. Thank you for tuning in and ascending with us. Hop on board the Ascension Bus.
This is Adrienne Elise of the Supernova Soul Tribe.
This is Nicholas David Mann.
This is Dr. Brent Satterfield of Inner World Movement, author of Bringing Heaven Home.
Hi, this is Dana Parker with Inner World Movement.
Hi, my name's Steve Nabell. Here I am with Stacy and Sam on Be the Love podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Be the Love, transcending through the shadows. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez.
And we are your co-hosts and souls on the journey. And thank you so much for tuning in with us. And if you've enjoyed listening to our show, we would be so grateful for a 5-star written review on iTunes. Reviews really help the show become more visible and spread the word to others. And so if it feels safe for you, I'd like to take a moment just to get centered with us. I would like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out of your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present right now. And take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release. Then take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and breathing in love for yourself, moving it into all of your cells and your entire being, and breathing out that light and love and sending it to all of humanity. And remember that you always have your breath to come back to. So today we have Paula Kruger. Paula was raised in a Christian family and at the age of 27 began a journey into a wider realm of understanding through books about near-death experience, participation in the dances of universal peace, and a Kundalini awakening through Kriya meditation, just to name a few. She attended Naropa University for a master's degree in transpersonal psychology. And about the same time, she began studying the esoteric card system known as the Destiny cards and developed her intuitive abilities. Combining all of these, she helps her clients connect with their guides, passed over loved ones, and higher self aspects to heal, grow, and clarify their life purpose. She is the author of So You've Got a Destiny cards book. And recently, Mother Mary contacted her and gives her messages for the collective, which she shares on her Facebook page and her YouTube channel. So thank you so much for being with us today, Paula.
Oh, I'm so honored.
It's such an honor. Thank you. And so let's just get started and tell us a little bit about what got you started down your path to where you are now. So what was the spark that moved you from Christianity into the other realms that you've been studying?
Well, my father passed away at age 20 when I was 24. And that launched me into reading a whole bunch of books about near-death experience. I just read one after the other. And then I felt kind of complete when I'd read 9 books in a row, just digesting, consuming as fast as I could. And then I got to this place when I was 27, and I realized, really accepted the cognitive dissonance that I was experiencing with, traditional Christianity. it wasn't a repressive form of Christianity I was raised with. Everybody was really chilled out and nothing ever got really pushed on me. So it really just was an expansion. Like Jesus told me several times, I'm the one that led you out and into this big circuitous path that lasted 10 years before I brought you back to kind of unbrainwash you and kind of show you the bigger picture. But at 27, I had to make a break. I had to just formally say, okay, I don't think I have to go through the 4 spiritual laws to get to heaven. I don't think anyone has to do that. There's just a lot more going on here. And then I just kind of, that was my first step into that realm. And I just began really understanding the power of the individual soul journey. And then through reading books about past life regression and things like that, it was like, oh, okay, everything's perfect here. Everything's organized. I've made these choices. I've made these contracts. I want to have these experiences, which really lifts a person out of victimhood and puts them more firmly in agency, but also just in constant love, infinite love. So, yeah. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. It sounds like it's just been a beautiful journey that leading you to what really resonates for your soul.
Yes, definitely.
So tell us a little bit about what the card system is. It sounds like that really you came to that place of learning about the cards and that resonated with you. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yes, with the birth of each of my children, the same person actually handed me one of the Destiny Cards book. And this was the second one that I was handed. It's very well loved, like the Velveteen Rabbit. My first copy, actually my second copy, I have a third copy that's in better shape, but this is going to seem a little strange at first, but this is the map. This is all 52 cards in this grid-like structure, and then here's another version of it where they're all organized. Basically, it's this really ancient esoteric system of the ordinary playing cards, which is, when you Google it, it's really hard to trace the origin of the cards. A lot of different cultures claim to have originated it, but I had an experience at one point that kind of answered it for me. I had a vision of myself lying on the desert in Egypt, and my heart was just broken because this sacred secret system was buried deep under me, and it was just a kind of a symbolic way. I think they were showing me that I had a very, very close relationship with this system in an ancient lifetime, and I've just come to it with just a facility to just understand this, the language of the cards. Even the shape of a card and the way they're called pips, the clubs or the hearts or whatever, how they're laid out it creates a picture and has a really deep meaning. And there's so many different layers and levels to the meaning. And it was used in ancient times for when to plant your garden, for alchemy, and all of the metals. It has a lot of planetary and like astrology and numerological language. And I use it for spiritual development, like it's turtles all the way down. If you've heard that expression, it's everything is connected, and this is a representation of the fabric of reality. It's all frequency and vibration. I know that sounds a little esoteric, but it was just it's been made so clear to me how each individual path, which is based on your birthday. So because I'm born on August 6th, I am a 7 of diamonds. And then I have a hand literally that I'm dealt. When I find my card, I back up one for the moon card, and then here's my Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto cards in my hand. So it reads kind of like an astrological reading, and that's like the birth chart to help you understand your personality, the issues that you're going to have, what's going to be hard, what's going to be easy. And then there's this other book where you can look up your card, and then you can look up your age. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like the Matrix. You can look at your exact age, and then the year is broken down into 7 periods lasting 52 days each. and you have 2 cards of influence for each period. And I've been doing this for like close to 30 years now, and it is just so clear to me that really big changes will happen on or around birthdays, because you get a whole new set of cards for that next year, or a significant shift can happen when you move from one planetary period to the next. And suddenly, like, there's a big relief, and we find ourselves being like, why do I feel so crappy this month? Why it just seemed to be so easy just a couple of days ago? What's going on? And the system just really helps people understand that the first thing is, this is temporary. You're in a movie. This isn't a snapshot. You will progress through this and then deal with something else. And so anyway, yeah. And then my guides come in and explain, that a single card can be a touching off point, where, then their guides can come in and say, okay, this is what's going on. And then it just kind of launches into a conversation between the person and their guides and the card system.
I find that very, very fascinating stuff. And I love playing cards. I am one of those people that loves to study them. Like, kind of like you said, like, the hearts and the clovers and all of that, and just study them, because I've always felt like there's something way deeper than what I'm looking at here, than just what's on the surface, And I've never heard of destiny cards, playing cards having, a different purpose. I knew, or at least I felt, there was a different purpose for them. That there was a much, like I said, deeper purpose. And the way you explain it's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Do you know though, because you did say, historically, if you look it up on Google, there's a bunch of different, things out there on where destiny cards actually got their start. Do you know if destiny cards are as old or older than like tarot cards or oracle cards?
Yes. The the tarot comes from the cards. And the Joker is the Fool. It's the first, what do you call those? The 22 cards that precede all the other cards in the tarot. Oh, what are they called? The first one is the Fool. The second one is, do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't. I'm not very versed in tarot. So I've had a couple of readings.
I've got my tarot right here.
Oh, here we go.
So yeah. Let's see.
Yeah,
the Arcana.
Yes, right. So the Fool is the first one, and then the tarot is an infusion of Kabbalah, the mystical Jewish system. Mm-hmm. And then that results in, the tarot with all these other things. But there's a direct correspondence. And oftentimes there's a very parallel meaning, and sometimes it's pretty divergent, but like the 10 of Cups means overflowing happiness. That's the 10 of Hearts, which is, it can represent a wedding, a gathering of people, being able to communicate with a group of people, or just having all your wishes fulfilled. So yeah, there are parallels. Yeah, it's super, super ancient. I think that it was designed by, gosh, I used to say this and now it doesn't resonate anymore. I was going to say like aliens, because the technology of it is so incredibly advanced. Mm-hmm. But I think it was people like us having a level of mastery and connectedness with the whole universe. And this system is based on time. You can break it down, and there are parallels to the length of a year, down to the fact that all of the cards added together equal, like the numeric values. If Jack, Queen, King are 11, 12, and 13, it comes to 364. Mm-hmm. And then the Joker is worth 1.25, all suits plus himself, which makes 365.25, which is the exact length of a solar year. 4 suits, 4 seasons, the red and the black is day and night, and it goes on and on and on. Yeah, and it's time. It really is the study of time, which just gives me the chills right now, because we are passing through time. We're this complete novel but we are passing through this, I call it the cross section of eternity, just one page at a time, one influence at a time. And I think this system has helped me understand you are not a snapshot, and the mind wants to go into black or white in judgment. And it's like, no, there's always movement, there's always development, and it's a spiral. Like, we know, you come back to, like, say I had the Ace of Hearts 6 years ago in Uranus, it's going to show up differently for me this time, because I will have evolved through, you know, several iterations of working with that card. So anyway, little rabbit trail there. I love that you know, a fair amount of people, not that many, say what you say, in the sense of, I just feel like there's something more there. And I just, I love that curiosity. And I can tell you that just looking at the cards, I mean, I was obsessed with playing solitaire. In fact, my brother refused to play Nerds with me because I got so good at it. But I'm positive now that I did that on purpose. My soul did that on purpose, because just looking at the cards is an esoteric practice because of the power of symbol.
That's really funny that you mentioned that too, because I learned how to play poker when I was like 15. And, you know, before then, it was a lot of solitaire. And I remember being a kid and like at my grandparents' house or something, and they just have these cards, and they're, you know, I mean, we all know if eventually all the cards just kind of meld together in one just messy deck, and sometimes you pull cards from another deck and cards from another deck, and that's kind of how it was. But I remember just like sitting there and just, like you said, just studying the cards, and like it's almost like, you know, everything around me just kind of disappeared, and I just dove into whatever cards I was looking at, you know. And I think that's where my my fascination with them started too. But I do love that, you know, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy a tarot deck. You don't have to go out and buy an oracle deck. You know, you can run to the gas station, buy a $2 pack of playing cards, and it's got the same effect. And the other thing I really found interesting is how you were talking about this and how it correlates with numerology. You know, and just, you know, the more we talk about these kinds of topics, the more my eyes get open to, you know, the numerology of the universe, and how everything, like you were saying, everything is interconnected, and everything is interconnected. You know, when it comes to the universe, there's no separation. Everything's connected to everything, which is connected to everything.
Yes.
And, you know, with the destiny cards, it's just one more thing that's connected to the whole scheme of things. And it's to me, it's a little daunting sometimes, but it's also, like you said, you know, very, very fascinating stuff. So, and I might be kind of hogging the interview right now, but it's just, there's just a lot of good stuff coming to me right now. But one thing I would like to know though is, so for the readings and the cards and things, and you mentioned individual and collective, right? So there can be readings for the individual, and there could be readings for the collective as well, right? So how can we use the individual path and the collective path readings? How can we create an understanding and kind of use that to, you know, help guide our lives if we are in, you know, kind of a rut, or we're unsure of where to go next?
That's a great question with a really multifaceted answer. I'll start by saying the cards themselves have general teachings. And I'm not sure if I put that chapter in my book or not, but I just want to say really quick, if you do have a card deck and you want to start doing readings, my book, and I don't even know if Amazon is selling it anymore. You can contact me and I will send you one. But it's called, like Stacy said, So You Got a Destiny Cards book. Now what? And it guides you through doing a particular kind of reading. And you don't need the Destiny Cards book to use it, but you can just throw a bunch of cards and then go to the reference section and say, what does the Jack of Diamonds mean? And I give you kind of a little bit more of an esoteric spiritual growth aspect. But as far as the collective, there are general teachings that present themselves. And then, gosh, it has to have a birthday. to use the destiny cards, it has to have a birthday. It has to have an inception point. So you can look at like significant things like when you got together with your partner. Look at that day, that card, how it is that kind of, that's kind of the hand that you're dealt. You can also take 2 birth cards, add them together, and that's your composite card, and that is the relationship path that you're working. The United States is the Jack of Diamonds, and it is a particular age. So I have it earmarked in my book so I can see what we're transitioning into as a country. You can do that for, you know, all the other different countries, but this system sort of underscores a message I've been getting from Mary over and over and over again. Your path is your own. And that's really where the rubber meets the road, is what am I experiencing right now? What do I think? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Asking if I didn't answer your question.
Oh, no, I do believe that you answered my question. And yeah, I'm just sorry, I'm just kind of processing stuff too. But you did also go ahead, Stacy. Sorry,
go ahead. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, as far as like the individual, so our path is our own. And so if we wanted to say get a reading or maybe read the cards for ourselves, or, you know, find maybe what is the best time to do something, how would we go about utilizing the cards for our individual path?
Okay, well, several things you can do. One, I do recommend going to my website to at least, I mean, just a few clicks away, you can find out what your card is. And then you can get a little paragraph or 2 blurb for free about your card. And then for $4, you can get a report on your card. And then for $33, you can get what is called a kit. I put together 52 kits, like, okay, for this life path, here's some practices you can do. Here are 5 questions, difficult questions you can ask yourself, or easy. Yeah, the kit is just packed with everything. It's very, very user friendly, and it's really funny. I put it together with a couple of gals. So I'm a diamond, so I tend to be very serious, and they're both clubs. So they have kind of more this adolescent, jokey, funny, you know, kind of attitude, and that comes through in the website. And, you know, or if you want to take it a step further, you can get Robert Camp's second book, this Destiny Cards book. He also has a website where there's a lot of information called 7 Thunders. He believes that, and I do too, that the system is mentioned in the Bible, in Revelations, when it talks about the little book that the angel puts in his mouth, and it's like a burning coal. And at first the taste is sweet, and then, getting the chills. At first the taste is sweet, and then it becomes bitter. And that's the card system. It's like, for about 10 years, I would ask everyone, including the waitress, when's your birthday? Because I was studying. And at first the resonance with it is like, oh, that's so resonant, that's so sweet, that's so amusing. Look, I'm included in the fabric of reality, and this explains me to myself. And then it becomes bitter when you start to kind of get this reflection back of like, oh, this is really reflecting me on a deeper level. And now I'm seeing, you know, the issues and the, you know, stuff like that I have to deal with. So yeah, and you can always contact me for a reading. It's that there are other, you know, products and things that are on the website that are free. So I invite people to just begin where you find yourself, what feels the most accessible to you, and then the cards have kind of a consciousness of their own, and it becomes a relationship, a real esoteric relationship where they begin, you know, there's a mystical connection, like you're talking about. It just starts to go back and forth, and it kind of leads you along, and it's a feedback relationship where the cards can inform you about yourself, and then your experience can inform you about the cards. So
sounds like they could be really beneficial and maybe help understand ourselves a little bit more in depth. Now I'm curious, you mentioned just about being a diamond, maybe more serious, and the clubs. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the different symbology and what those mean behind the cards.
Yes, yes. So they go in order according to age. They also represent elements. It's always everything is one of my phrases. That's but hearts represent childhood. So if you're a heart, you're gonna, like, children are very they're experiencing life through their emotional body more, and relationships are very primary for them. So hearts represent childhood, and in fact heart people will be very young looking their whole life. They might even have like really soft creamy skin. I can identify people. I've even gotten to the place where I can figure out what someone's card is, and I've been right a number of times, and it just floors me, but it's a vibration and I'm learning how to read it. Clubs represent the adolescent and the air element. Oh, so hearts are water. Clubs represent air or swords, and it's a time of mental accumulation. As teenagers, we're beginning to really accumulate a lot of information. So they tend to be in their heads a lot, and that gets heavily rewarded by our society. So sometimes it's hard for them to access the heart because they're so focused here. But it also represents consciousness, and they also are very lighthearted and witty and not quite so attached. Just like a teenager, they can kind of have this attitude. They're fun to be around. They're more lighthearted. The diamonds represent adulthood. Diamonds are, and there's some debate about this, but I feel strongly that diamonds are fire, because it's the fired up engine time of our lives, the adulthood, when we're making money, we're accumulating. It's pentacles, it's fire, it's passion. Diamond types tend to be very they have very strong convictions. It's all about their values and what's important to them, and the word should is really big for them. And yeah, kind of serious, and tend to sermonize and tell people what they should do and what should happen. And they can be very useful in like a board meeting to go, okay, here's the priority, here's where we need to go. And then the spade is the sage, and they don't talk as much. They have a slower processing speed because they're taking in everything. And they're the person in the meeting who waits until the end, and then they say a few words and everyone's jaw drops. It's like, wow. They tend to feel a little cold, a little insular, a little dismissive, like they don't really need anything from you, but they bring a vibration of containment and wisdom. And when love is added to it, you just get this feeling like everything's going to be okay, because grandma just showed up and she knows a lot, so I guess we're going to be okay.
And one question that I had for you, actually, throughout our lifetimes with our destiny cards, is it possible for our for our symbols to change? So is it possible for us to go from a heart to a diamond, or from a diamond to a club, or for a spade to a heart? Or is that kind of our baseline for for the rest of our natural lives here on Earth?
Yes to both. It's I love that question, because you are fundamentally your card your whole life. That's going to be your primary thing, just like in the Enneagram. And there's a huge correspondence with the Enneagram and the cards, but we move through different focuses. So like there are 7-year cycles, there are 13-year cycles. So in my 13-year cycle, so I'm progressing through my hand. Maybe I should use one of you guys instead.
Sure.
Stacy, your birthday?
July 10th.
Okay, so you're the 5 of diamonds. I already knew that. I had the book over here. So, and what is your age?
43.
Okay, so you are technically in the Jupiter period between 39 and 51. And then at 52, you enter a 13-year Saturn influence. So we would look at your Jupiter card. So here's the 5 of diamonds. So we go down here to start. This is the first 13 years. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter. So your Jupiter card is the 7 of spades. So even though you're a diamond, you would be doing more spade-like things. You would have that more addressed, and it's a clock that Robert Camp, the guy that wrote these books, said it clocks down 2 seconds. Every second there's a card of influence. And of course, that's really difficult to work with. Technically, the hour, somebody found this somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't know where to access it, but the hour of my birth is the Queen of Clubs, which is the Mother Mary card. So it's like, oh, that's cool how that comes together. But yeah, there are cycles that we're moving through, and I tend to focus on the year-long cycle, because we kind of experience these chapters in about a month or so, you know, that 52-day period. So yes, and you have a planetary ruler. So Stacy, because you're a Cancer, we back up one to get your other card. It's called your planetary ruler, and that's the 7 of Clubs. So the moon rules emotional comfort zone. So your emotional comfort zone is to be emotionally intelligent, discerning, to be very highly sensitive, which is really a two-edged sword, of course. Clubs tends to be very, it's the rake through mind that finds all the snags. So it tends to be, when we're in fear, we tend to go into judgment. So there's a lot of self-judgment that comes with that early on. And then through that pain and suffering of having a 7 in your moon position, you eventually find self-love, discernment, clarity, and then you can, you know, extend that to others. So during childhood, you may have experienced more of that moon vibration, but you know, it's always coming into play. You know, so yeah, that's the answer, is that it does. Well, and you also have a soul card. What's the card under your card? So here's another layer. I like the level of complication, because like astrology, it allows for all the subtleties of life. So we would look over here to see the corresponding position. This spread is like under this spread, is how I think of it. So you have a diamond under you. So I would call you a double diamond. But you know, other people have other suits under them. And so that tends to be an arena. The card underneath tends to be something we've already got under our belt a little bit. So we bring a little bit more mastery and expertise to that vibration. So yeah.
So what does that mean, like for the soul card and being a double diamond? How does that?
It would say that you're not new to this rodeo show. This being a diamond, you will have worked through issues of the self-righteousness that comes with a diamond, the tendency to sermonize, you know, that the edges will have been sanded off. So you might still have to kind of deal with that tendency, but you're going to bring more depth and insight to that, and realize that it's kind of a high priest or a priest vibration archetype, where we're here to guide, to say, you know, look here, this is important, rather than you should. So yeah, the soul vibration is something that we pass through already, you know, and we know there are certain things that, you know, we really got in a past life, and sometimes we didn't, and that's why we're doing it again. So it really depends on the individual. And what I've really come to understand is that, like, even doing readings for identical twins, they're 2 different souls, and each soul inhabits their hand or their path based on their soul history, based on their soul personality. So, you know, where that 7 of Clubs might manifest as discernment for you, it might manifest as just a hyper insecurity for somebody, for maybe a younger soul, or someone who's, you know, here to really deal with that one this time.
And that's really interesting, just with like the, you know, I mean, obviously twins are, you know, 2 different people, being born at the same time, at the same birthday, you know, having, you know, that maybe that similar path, but very different. There's, you know, soul path be.
Yeah, I like to phrase this: your soul is making use of your hand for purposes. So it puts you in that sovereignty seat, rather than, you know, I'm a victim of my hand. Although I have to say, learning that I was a 7 of Diamonds gave me so much room to accept who I was and to come to really a deep self-compassion of like, whoa, this is a whopper. Everyone's hand is a whopper. Every path has its, essential paradox is another phrase that comes from a therapist a long time ago. But yeah, understanding your card and another person's card can really help, just like with any personality typing system, it can give you so much more room to accept, well, that's hard for them, or this has been really hard for me. And yet look at what I've learned and gained and stuff like that. On what you bring to it, I guess.
And I'm just curious too, go back to the you mentioned Spade as what was the spade that you had mentioned? I forgot what as far as like my soul card reading.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure what I mentioned, but you do have, the Seven of Spades is where you are right now. And you also have Spades as a Mercury card, which rules how you think and communicate. And that's this amazing capacity you have to be that container I was talking about, the gracious container that the grandmother archetype brings that just says, we have time here. Everything is welcome. We'll get to it in the right time. We can trust this flow. It's a life coach vibration. And the Seven of Spades, where you are right now in this 13-year Jupiter period, there's a weight and a seriousness and kind of a heaviness about the spade that says we have to take everything into account here. And in a more pragmatic way, with the card system, it represents work. It represents things finally showing up in the physical. So my guides, as they have been doing for a long time, will take me and sit me down and explain something to me about the cards. And at one point I got into a chat with Olney Richmond, who, oh my gosh, he lived around the turn of the 19th century, wrote the first volume on the cards called The Science of the Cards. He was in the Secret Order of the Magi, yada, yada. And he came through to me and I was like, Olney, is that you? Are you actually talking to me? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, can you just tell me something we have in common that I can verify later that will allow me to know that this is you? And he basically, what came through is that he was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, like I was. Oh my gosh. Okay. So one thing he told me is that the spade is all of the suits combined. It has the stem of the club, the point of the diamond, and the lobes of the heart. And he said this represents carbon. Well, I already knew that part, but he said it's like a leaf. All the tree pulls together all of the elements, the water, the fire, the sun, the air, the oxygen, and the earth, and then it shows up in the form of a leaf, and that looks a spade. So it's the result of everything that's come before. So a spade represents what actually physically shows up in the world. So during this period, you're going to be more focused on the tangible results. But the seven has a very spiritual vibration. So it's all about, I call it the card of, it's the righteousness card. And I put that tongue in cheek because there's always a little flavor of self-righteousness that we can kind of battle with that card when it shows up. But you're being shown what is standing in the way of behaving correctly or in alignment with the truth. So the Seven of Spades weeds out everything that's not working in a physical sense. Does that resonate?
It really does. I mean, just like where I'm at in my own life journey right now. So it's, yeah, absolutely. Just trying to let go of, maybe societal's norms and figure out what is my truth, where am I supposed to be, what's right for me. So that's definitely resonating. Absolutely. Thank you.
It's also the archetype. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's also the East archetype. So it's just, told to just kind of toss that in for contemplation.
And I'm sorry, you cut out when you said something archetype. I don't know if you heard that correctly.
Oh, sorry. Okay. The Seven of Spades is the archetype of the high priest.
Okay. Thank you. That's really cool to know. And so what might that information, like how would one use that information?
Well, I think it's really for personal reflection, for a sense of validation, for a sense of there's an organizing principle going on here. This isn't just me struggling with a bit of undigested potato, or because I didn't sleep well last night. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to be working this. It kind of helps you be proactive and say, okay, if I have, like me right now, I have the Ace of Hearts until June 15th, which I can't wait till I get through this period. It's the inner child card. It's the very first card. And so it's making me very, very sensitive to inner child stuff. And I can use that and say, okay, if this is my window of opportunity, I'm going to do a lot of inner child meditations. I'm going to be really tender with myself. I'm going to, be proactive about the fact that I'm dealing with that vibration. My emotions are going to be more, close to the surface, and I'm going to give myself more room to cry and to feel and to know that that's where I need to be right now. So yeah, it's about being proactive, more accepting, more compassionate, I think, with what's presenting on your path, and taking responsibility to make use of it.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's a key word there is that personal responsibility, and recognizing that we all have it within ourselves to take this information and use it how it resonates, and go inward as we're guided to do that work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. I'm wondering, let's kind of shift gears a little bit. You've mentioned just messages that you've been receiving from Mother Mary. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what messages you've been receiving, and what does she have for us at this time?
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah, so she started coming through to me about a month ago, and I know I was Catholic in past lives, but not this one, and just never even occurred to me to talk to Mary. And here she pops in and has just been giving me messages. She wants me to just describe her a little bit. So she's represented by the Queen of Clubs in the card system, which is a mental vibration, a consciousness vibration. She's very direct. She is a very no-nonsense truth teller. There is such a feeling of, it's so clean when she tells me something about myself, or says, this is how it is, or this is what's going on. But then along comes this incredible unconditional love and nurture and sweetness that just reassures me that I'm utterly loved. I'm utterly accepted. She's been really focusing on, for the collective, the importance of the trusting your own path. Okay, so I threw a couple cards this morning to see what she wanted to talk about in this interview. And I do the Osho Zen. So the first one is trust. Trust your path. Trust what you're feeling right now. Trust what's in there. Don't push it away. Go towards it. Get curious about it. Bring compassion to it. And trust that that's perfect somehow. And it's also trust the flow of this whole entire planetary collective journey. That's something that really began breaking through to me yesterday in kind of yesterday was a really big day, the lunar eclipse. And I just kind of had this understanding that we are all creating this journey day to day to day. We are all cells in a body, and every cell is vibrating at a frequency that has an effect on the whole. And so blame is just really stupid. So her emphasis is always coming back to the self, because that's where your power is to influence the collective. If that's your point of influence, And we all want to influence it towards love. Well, those of us that, are on the love train, we're like, okay, I want this place to be more loving. It all starts with going here. That's the power place. So, and there is a divine orchestration to this whole thing. So yeah, trust the path, the mind card. So yeah, this is all and it's upside down, it's the machinery of the mind. And this is another card that showed up, which to me is when you do your breathing exercise, you're getting into mind heart coherence. And it really is just as easy as breathing, slowing down, and tuning in, feeling, asking yourself, what does my heart feel like right now? That's her focus is really, it's really been granular, microscopic. It's like, let's get into this moment and what you're feeling right now. And I call it the anticlimactic U-turn. You can't go out there to source anything for yourself. You can't go out there really for anything. Come here first. So it's always about coming back here and recognizing that the mind isn't, it's going to churn up a lot of stuff that just isn't useful. And it's useful to observe it, but to not let it drive the bus. I think she was just generally saying, recognize there's a lot of garbage there. And then the comparison card. And this is the third time she's pulled up this card and wants to talk about it. So I did a little listening and writing and taking notes on what she had to say specifically on the comparison card. So comparison, immediate to this all-important question, how am I doing? In that sacred space, this infection exists called comparison that sneaks into that very private place. How am I doing? Well, how is that compared to how someone else is doing? Or is that okay that I feel that way? And it's just, it's a program that comes along. She said, we need to purge this. Ask for my help. My love, I can help center you into your own experience. So sometimes it's really hard to access our own experience. We're so conditioned to turn away from it or push it away if it's uncomfortable. And she's been helping me tune into my own experience. She's asking me to share this a little bit. So with this Ace of Hearts and with whatever this dense time that we're moving through, and with my request to make me a more loving person, she has answered that and said, okay, we're going to really deal with your ego. And one night I just couldn't get these negative thought forms about myself. I mean, it was just like a tape that wanted to play back my whole life of everything I had to feel badly about. And so finally at 3 a.m, sitting outside looking at the stars, she said, she tried to direct me to feel love. Can you feel your own heart? And I said, I can't get there right now because my head is on overdrive and I can't feel right now. And it was such an awful place to be. And yet I'm so grateful that I had this experience because I think so many have this. So what she did is she laughed and she said, well, I can help you with that. And a moment later, there was just this rush of love. I felt her embrace. And she said, now take that same love and apply it to something that's very easy for you to love. So I thought of my dog who's laying here with me right now. And I was like, she's like, can you feel your love for Max? And I said, yes, I can see his little warm paw when he puts it in my hand. I can feel that love. And she's like, good, good. And then I drank my tea and she said, did you feel the love in your tea? Because it's in everything. Love is the essence of everything. So she took me down this tiny little path to just get to a feeling of love, and then it shifted everything. Okay, so there's one more thing she had to say about this. To center it into your own experience, feel love like a child walking, hands held on both sides, like by your parents, where you feel the total freedom to be, where you feel total acceptance. So yeah, I think she just really wanted to communicate that, how toxic that tendency we have to compare ourselves and always come up short. And sometimes it's not even a mental process. It's just kind of there, feeling less than, feeling like, oh, there I go again. And she just wants to pull apart that space, create more space right here for yourself so that you can just experience where you are. It's so primal. It's so simple. And I think that that alone is what is changing. I'll say it in the positive. It is what is changing this planet. It is what is elevating our consciousness, bringing about this ascension. I mean, we have a lot of helpers working with us and so forth, but this is the portal. This is the gateway. I sound so emphatic right now, but I think that's the energy that she's bringing through. That, you know, this is so simple and so important and really accessible. And if you can't access it, you can ask for help, and she's right there.
That's really beautiful. And I think it's, you know, it comes down to that simple message of just love, right? Everything's in love, and we are love. And, you know, recognizing our true divinity, you know, and when we separate ourselves by comparison, we're creating an illusion, right? It is an illusion. We're creating that separation through illusion.
It really is. It's such an illusion, and especially with the card system kind of in my back pocket, it's like this backdrop of uniqueness. It's like how you're feeling right now is valid because you're an individual on an evolutionary path who has chosen this out of your sovereignty before you came into this lifetime. You have it on pretty good authority to be exactly where and how you are right now. So yeah, the illusion of comparison really side rails us and takes us outside of our own experience, really. And you know, just the example of, like, when you said we are love, I can look at you and see that so clearly. I can sit in your presence, both of you, and just feel this, like, oh my God, I'm getting the chills right now. I see your divinity. I feel it. And yet it's so hard sometimes to know that about yourself. And that's why it's so important to just, you know, ask another person to give you that divine reflection, you know, at times. Please tell me this divine vehicle, that this vehicle for divinity that you experience in my presence. You know, my daughter, she's 28, and on her last birthday in December, she set up a Zoom call with a whole bunch of really important women in her life. And, you know, with the intention that each one would just, you know, kind of say a blessing or just really reflect her to herself. And it was an overwhelming experience for a lot of, because, well, God, she's so easy to love, but it was just this, you know, this focused, we're going to put you in the seat in the center, and we're going to tell you what you see and the impact that you've had on our lives and how the divine has come through you and touched me. And all of us, that's true for every single one of us.
And just think, if we all just took a moment and said that and reflected that back to each other to say, I honor you, I see the divine in you, you know, what kind of planet, what kind of world would we be creating? Because we are truly mirrors to each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Such a beautiful thing when we can offer that to others, and you know, and recognize even in our shadow, even in our pain, we are still divine. And so we have to recognize that that's also part of the process, and that's part of the humanness of ourselves.
Beautiful. Oh, exactly. Mary keeps showing me her humanity, even though she's been ascended for a long time. And she came through the other day stomping around. She was really pissed off about something that was going down here on the earth plane. And another time she was in deep grief and sorrow about something and what people are doing. And then, you know, just flipped into another vibration to demonstrate something else to me. But, you know, a Rumi poem comes to mind when you say that, and she brought this out in a recent channeling, is that don't cover over the wound with a plaster, you know, or a band-aid, because that's the place where the light enters you. And to recognize, you know, I was lucky enough to be penetrated with this insight during one of the most difficult periods of my life. I just know it was my higher self or my guides to say, if she's going to get through this, she needs to know this little piece. you're not going through this just for yourself. You're going through this entire difficult decade of your life. It was my 30s, single mom, 2 kids, self-employed, It was just really hard. You're going through this on behalf of a lot of other people that you're going to help. You can't see down the path yet and how you're going to help them, but this is part of your mission. And so allowing that period of time, with just a little bit more room to let myself go through it. Because if I can go through it and take notes, then if I'm doing it on behalf of someone else, then there's a much greater willingness. There was a much greater willingness to go through it. And they showed me, they're like, okay, here's your lifeline. Here's this line in space. And here's where you are right now. And it was emerald green. It was lit up. They're like, this is a gem right here. This is a high value period of life. And which was exactly the opposite of how I felt about that period. So if you're listening to this and you're going through something particularly difficult, or someone who is, you can take you out of projecting victimhood onto them or feeling victimhood within yourself. And there is a place for victimhood. I want to be a voice for, yes, there are times when we are literally victims to something. It shouldn't be a bad word. But to stay there is not productive, but to be in that place of difficulty, if you can just consider the possibility that this is a loving, divine, Christ-like mission that you've devised for yourself, not just for you to grow and open up to love and just, understand the nature of love, but you're going through this on behalf of someone else down the line that you're gonna pass this wisdom off to. So how can you go through this in the most authentic, self-loving way, the way you would want someone else to go through it, with self-compassion and those things that make it so much more productive and endurable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, when we go through things with self-compassion and recognizing that, we treat ourselves with love and compassion helps to move through that journey a little bit easier and with ease, and recognizing that we're not the only ones going through that, and so we can reduce the stigma by taking that sting out of, oh, this event is, I'm going through this, and has to be shame and guilt and all these other mixed emotions, which I think comes up a lot for a lot of people. But when we recognize that we can hold ourselves in the same eyes as we do others, and giving ourselves the same grace as we do others, it really helps the process move through, or it helps us move through the process with so much more grace and ease.
Yeah, well said. To love ourselves as we so naturally love others.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm wondering, I know you mentioned, I don't know if this is the right time to share that, but you mentioned Mother Mary having a message for Sam. I'm wondering if that's something you want to share or process.
I totally forgot all about that.
Popped in my head too, so I think it was time for that. Yeah. Okay, let me just tune into her and see where she wants to go with it. She wants me to draw an Osho card that'll make it easy, a jumping off point. I see her with you and holding you, and it's a very comfortable place. She's just been there with you for a really long time, and I know you know that. But it's like just always, she's saying off your left shoulder, so there's some significance to that in this moment. Okay, she's curious and excited and almost mischievous about this. Okay, I think this is about where you're at in your life right now. So this is the card on the bottom, slowing down, feeling the texture, the contours, the lushness And this is Mary coming through with all these qualities. To that, let that be sort of the bath and the context for this period in your life right now. You know, just the richness of your senses, breathing in the fragrance of the trees and the flowers, and quality of the light and the taste of the food, and the way your heart feels walking through this grassy place or whatever. Okay, so the first card is the Miser, which is, let me ask you when your birthday is really quick.
November 22nd.
I know I asked you that before. Okay. Oh, you're the Jack of Hearts. You're the Christ card. Okay. Yeah, that's a challenging card to be. Okay, so this Miser, the images of this woman clinging to all of these things, putting value in things rather than in the self. The self is the valuable thing that's evolving and is rich and is opulent and is full and beautiful. But she's really emphasizing that vibration of opulence, and to consider yourself as the opulent thing. Not just that your life is filled with opulence, but that you are opulence. Oh, she just loves you. I just love feeling her regard for you. She is showing me right now you as a little boy, like in the present. Just this, it just makes me want to cry. There's such a softening of your spirit towards her, just like a child with their mother. Oh, just so receptive and innocent. Okay, the next card is Patience. So this is about just acknowledging the cycles of the moon. The things have to go through their necessary stages to get you where you need to be, where you want most to be. Let's see if there's anything else with that. No, she's like, you're going to get that. That's very clear to you what that means. And then the last card is Ordinariness. And that's kind of what she was describing before with this bath of slowing down, the really, really enjoying the richness of everything as it's freely given. There's an energy of, wow, I'm in this park and that lilac tree is blooming, and that's free. That's free. I just heard a frog croak. That one was free. An energy of just playfully moving through the moment and enjoying everything as it's showing up for you. Yeah, so does that resonate, or do you have any question for her?
No, that actually does resonate a lot with me. And to kind of give, you know, our listeners a little bit of a backstory, a long time ago, I had a angel reading, and the lady that was doing my reading said that, you know, Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, is actually one of my guides. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because she said she's always on my left side too. So yeah, and cause I asked her, you know, I keep smelling like flowers where their flowers aren't anywhere around, and that's kind of where when she came to her. But so yeah, so ever since then, you know, and I do have you know, I do look at her as, you know, a child looks at their mother, you know. So for me it is. And it's funny how you mention her, because that's how I kind of envision her, you know, not necessarily the you know, the Catholic or the Christian version of Mary, you know, with, you know, the bright halo and, you know, the just kind loving eyes and all that kind of stuff. I've always thought of her as a rebel, you know, as someone, like you said, that, you know, if she gets mad, and she don't care who sees it. You know, if she wants to be ornery, she gets ornery, and, you know, if people don't like it, then that's their too bad, you know. And for me, I've been the same way pretty much my entire life, you know. Like, this is, I'm wear emotions on my sleeve pretty much, so, you know, at any given time, this is who I am. And if for some reason you don't like it, that's fine. But right now, this is who I am. And you ain't changing that, you know? But in the reading that you gave, so when you mentioned, you know, the kind of relax and literally, you know, stop and smell the roses, or, you know, appreciate the things that are free, you know, I have been having a hard time doing that lately. It's been a very frustrating time for me as of late. And, you know, when I'm outside doing yard work, or, you know, going on a hike or walking my dog or something, I'm still able to see, you know, the beauty out there. So the lilac bush, or the tree blooming, or, you know, the birds singing, or whatever. But immediately it's, you know, my ego mind kicks in and says, great, now, you know, insert something here, like, you know, oh, I have a juniper bush right next to my house, and juniper is my favorite smell. I love it. And I, you know, walked by the juniper bush, like, oh, I could smell it, you know, it smells so good. And then immediately my ego mind goes into, yeah, but you got to cut this part off, you got to cut this part off, you know, it's going to be just a big pain in the ass. And so it's been a lot of that kind of back and forth lately. So the fact that, you know, number one, it was acknowledged. Number two, it was acknowledged by Mary, who I have, you know, just amazing, unlimited, you know, respect and admiration and love for. But yeah, it definitely, you know, that reading definitely resonates with me. And her message to me was kind of like I said, you know, feel your feelings. Right now, what's going on is what's supposed to be going on. But when it's over, it's over. You know, don't hold on to the crap. Feel the crap, but don't hold on to the crap. And when it's over, keep going forward. Keep moving. And that's kind of what you know, how I interpreted the reading. So thank you for that. Though that was really cool. And yeah, I just, you know, anytime I could get a message from her, it's always good stuff for me. So thank you.
So glad. You're so welcome. And she just wanted to, when you said you're going through a hard time, she just said she's holding you really tight. She's like holding you really, really tight.
Yeah, and I can sometimes, you know, I can still feel it. But yeah, I mean, it's always nice to know that, you know, the beings or the people that you look up to, or that, you know, you want in your lives, that even though they might go away for a little bit, they'll always come back when they need to. You know, that's also another message I got to, especially with her, you know, like I said, she's always with me. And I know that, as with the rest, you know, with my angels, my spirit guides, you know, I have a pretty important spiritual team, like a kind of a who's who kind of thing. You know, Mary's on my right, Archangel, or on my left, and Archangel Michael's on my right. So it's kind of like, it's a pretty good duo to have. But, you know, just because for whatever reason I'm not feeling them as strongly does not mean that they're not there. And does not mean that when I need their help, they're there. And, you know, I can actually, saying that, I can feel my heart start to warm, you know. And so that's how I know that. Now I'm getting emotional, so I'm going to stop talking here in a second. But that's how I know that she's here, you know. And because I get it's the warm heart, the warm-hearted feeling, you know. So yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Because, you know, one day she said to me, it was the only thing she said to me in that moment. She said, I will always come to you. Wrote it down, left. I was like, okay, good. Of course you will. You're an ascended master and you love me and stuff. And then the next time I needed to contact her was that one of those many nights I've had in the past month of not being able to sleep and staying up till 3 a.m. and just with something churning. And my very first thought in asking her to come is that she wouldn't be able to come because she couldn't match my frequency. I wouldn't be able to match her frequency. She's inaccessible to me because I'm so distressed. And then she was like, I will always come to you. And I was like, okay. Oh, I'm so glad. Please help me. And then there was this back and forth that came. And even if you can't hear them or feel them, call on them anyway. And one of the things she said to me in that moment was, there's so many people who don't know that they can call on me for help, and I'm right there. And with the accessibility, the ordinariness, the familiarity of her vibration tells me that she has always been with me. And there is such a profound familiarity there that I know this extends to, I don't know, I want to say everyone. And even if you think like, oh, that's a special connection and I'm not psychic and I can't access that kind of thing, or I'm not Catholic or I'm not Christian, or it's like, it doesn't matter. Asking for that assistance, saying, Mary, I would like to connect with you, or I'd like to feel you, or maybe could we even, she is not above confirmations and asking for signs. I asked her the very first time she popped through and said, we're going to start talking. I was like, that's kind of random. Can you give me a confirmation? And the very next day, the very first video I happened upon was about the Mary sightings in, you guys might know the names of them, like when she appeared and there was a spaceship and there were 3 children and there were like 3 different sightings and she gave messages to these children. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe someone will type it in the comments, but I was like, well, that's a pretty big confirmation. So that don't be surprised at the immediacy, the familiarity, and the sense that these are your very own thoughts. Mm-hmm. That's how wedded to humanity she is. And she's family, mm-hmm. There will be familiarity to that vibration. And I was watching somebody, he's an artist. It was a video that just popped up on YouTube, and he was an artist. And he was painting and talking. The background is he's talking about, the lunar eclipse and everything that went down on the 26th. And the painting eventually, it just kept morphing, and it turned into this moon with this female figure standing over it. And I just had this immediate feeling that, we hear so much about the divine feminine and this term that's come in, the mother arc, the return of this energy. And when she came through to me, I was like, it's like you hear that the queen is going to be arriving, and then through the door comes your mom. And you're like, wow, okay, I can relate to this. Yeah, that's the divine feminine that's coming through. I would imagine that you guys are doing interviews with a lot of people talking about the divine feminine, and I'm curious what you've been hearing.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the Mary being so deeply, connected and intertwined with humanity, because that's not the first time we've had an interview. That's not the first time somebody said that. They said that once before too, and I believe that, yes, she is, like you said, she is an ascended master. She is, part of the divine feminine, but she started out as human. So she gets that. She understands that. And kind of the same thing with Jesus, with Buddha, with the ascended masters that we have that were on this earth plane. They understand the what it's like to be human. They understand the human condition, and I think that's, for me anyway, they're very, I'm very relatable. They're very relatable because they've had that human condition before, because they've went through that suffering and they went through that ego mind, and they've been through the doubts, and they've been through the anger, and they've been through the sadness, and they've been through all that they understand. So yeah, it's that really kind of got me when you were talking about her love of humanity. Like, yeah, that's not the first time that we've heard that before. And yeah, it's so cool to me when we can have these conversations about, you know, these figures that are perceived to be very religious figures, but to take the religion out, you know. And I'm not, you know, I'm not saying that organized religion is bad or evil or anything like that. I think that along with everything else, it does have its place in the world. But it's nice to talk about these figures in more of a personal human way, you know. And for me, it makes them more relatable. It makes them more desirable almost, because it's like, yeah, you know, yes, uh Jesus, you know, for all intents and purposes, could have very well been the son of God, you know, that I don't deny that. But he also bled and he ate and he drank and he laughed and he did all these things and he suffered, you know, and that's the human part, you know. So I don't know, I love it when we're able to, you know, give these talk about these divine beings in a more human way. It's very relatable to me.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I really, I guess, rejected the idea of, well, organized religion because I've never really resonated with it. I remember, yeah, just being like at this, you know, everything in this Bible here feels negative to me. Nothing feels like it resonates. So I took that more spiritual path aside from the religious aspect. But it wasn't until like years later when I started really going down my path and recognizing, you know, Jesus and Mary and, you know, Buddha and you know, these figures as ascended masters, you know, the Christ consciousness that they're vibrating at a higher level, and we can tap into that. And I just wanted to also talk, kind of go back to what you asked about, as far as the divine feminine. We, you know, I think, I mean, we've had a lot of different people that we've had conversations with, but even, you know, beyond that too, the divine feminine, I think, you know, the energy of the divine feminine, I feel, is coming into this balance with the masculine in the world right now. And I see that happening on so many different levels where women are able to maybe express their divinity or their femininity in a different way that feels more you know, equal and loving, and it's in balance with the masculine rather than competing against the masculine, and recognizing the energy of that in our universe, in our world, has been, feels just like we're shifting into that a lot more lately. And so that feels really, really beautiful and just nurturing, and recognizing the importance of the mother and the father, you know, in balance and harmony, and that we have to coexist in these energies, and tapping into that feminine for the you know, for a man to tap into their feminine energy just as much as the female. So it's really about the energy. It's not really about the gender. So
Yeah,
I
you
just
know,
feel
I had an EMDR session recently and I was going through something really intense and I couldn't figure it out, but I knew that I was trying to integrate something, and through the EMDR session and the visuals and everything, it was made really clear to me I was integrating my masculine side. So, right, it's not like the spotlight is all on the feminine. It's about integration and balance, and whatever has been out of balance is being brought into balance. And when I was on my walk, well, the ducks, I have to mention the ducks while you're talking. It reminded me of I was taking a walk. God, this was like decades ago. I was in Lakewood where I grew up, and I was walking next to a pond, and there were ducks, and my guides told me, observe those ducks for a minute. This will be relevant later. And it's finally relevant. And it's like It's over 30 years later. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. The male duck kind of hovered behind the female, and the female was leading the way. And then she'd find something that was particularly interesting, and she would just like get into it. And she was, I don't know, nibbling on something or doing her duck things. And the masculine just sat and he stood guard. He was like her escort so that she could have this experience.
Mm.
And this morning when I was taking a walk, and I was connecting with Mary. I'm walking on this dirt path where I walk Max all the time, and it's just an open field. And suddenly, and I do think this is part of this eclipse energy, I've been having these really palpable experiences, like transcendent experiences. And this one was suddenly I was walking the streets, I was walking on the ground in Israel. And I've never had that experience or desire or thought before, but suddenly I was there, and Mary came in and she said, "You walked with us." And I was like, wow. And I had the feeling that I was between like 5 and 8 years old, and I was holding hands with both Mary and Jesus, like a child, and swing you, and walking along. And then after, getting the chills again. You guys are so cool. You're just this container that you help create. She was helping me feel that safety in the presence of the divine masculine and divine feminine. Absolute safety. I mean, in that experience, in that moment, I felt like the innocence and the freedom of a like 5 or 6 year old child. And I felt like the ground was made of love. And I felt that love coming up into my feet. And I felt that I loved the ground as much as it loved me. And it was just so real and palpable. And then after a few moments, she said, "Now take that feeling inside yourself. Be that masculine that takes the initiative, the agency. I'm going to hold space for you, like this female duck, to have this emotional experience." So yeah, that's just one way of looking at that integration.
I love that. That is just so beautiful and just so profound, really, and recognizing that it's not about rejecting the feminine and the masculine. We all have that within ourselves, and recognizing that it's just about integrating the energies so that we can fully embody and embrace ourselves in our own divine being and fully come into our true nature, our wholeness of that feminine and masculine. It comes from within. We have to integrate that within ourselves to recognize and fully embrace that from others.
Right. And that's why we're all here together to take pulls and frequencies from other people. I mean, darting back to my website for just a second, on my It Is Kismet, I did a whole bunch of recordings at one point. They're free. There are links to it on YouTube, or you can go to the Kismet YouTube channel, I guess, and find it. But I talked about the king, queen, and jack of each suit, because that represents, okay, so you as a diamond, the king of diamonds is your masculine, the queen of diamonds is your feminine, and the jack of diamonds is your adolescent or inner child. And these particular cards have particular personalities and things that they have to work with and things that they bring to the table. And so kind of looking at that in terms of, well, what is my internal masculine? What is my introjected father voice? How does that need to be adjusted? How can I make that a kinder voice or a more powerful voice, or, whatever is needed? And what's the personality of that child? What is that, jack of diamonds, jack of clubs, whatever? What do they have to deal with? What are their challenges and their struggles? And it will also, the jack of your suit will tell you about your own childhood and what that was like for you. What was the challenge? Like all diamonds, to some degree, were incredibly sensitive and insecure as children. There was just always this issue of, I need to feel safe. Do I feel safe? Do I feel emotionally safe? And it pervades the first 7 years of their life. So just even understanding that little bit about bringing it back to that uniqueness. you have a divine feminine, you have a feminine archetype in you, you have that masculine, you've got that divine child, and how is it doing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It sounds like, I mean, you could go so many directions with that, and I feel like we could probably talk forever about these things. But but kind of yeah, but let's wrap up, and I'd like to hear more about where our listeners can find you. You mentioned your website and what you're currently working on.
Okay. So yeah, the website for the cards is ITISKISMET. So the whole website is www.itiskismet.com. My Facebook channel, I do live videos. I'm heavily censored right now. It's a source of great amusement as well as consternation and shock. So censored. I mean, they'll just come onto a video and just blank it out while I'm talking about something, and then they'll bring it back when they're comfortable with it. And I was channeling Mary one day. I was like, this is what Mary has to say about the current situation. And anyway, you can go to my Facebook page, just Paula Kruger, Krueger, and sometimes I do a YouTube video instead and then post it on Facebook. And my YouTube channel is Paula Kruger. It's all very straightforward. And what else? Is there anybody else they need to? Well, if you want a reading, you can go to the website and then text me. I don't check my email very much. You have to text me to get in personal contact with me, or through Messenger. And I might take a little while, but I can super ADD. But yeah, I love to connect with people in person and give readings, and any length of time is okay for reading. You want 5 minute, one question, you want I throw a couple cards and just do a messenger reading and take pictures of the cards. I mean, yeah, it's I'm really flexible.
Awesome. And we will add that to our show notes as well. So all that information. So yeah. And so thank you, Paula, so much for being here with us today and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and experience with us.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been such a beautiful space. And Sam, Stacy, thank you so much for the way that you show up and your softness, your fragrance. You really are just like a flower that's just laid open.
Oh, that was very sweet. Thank you so much. I don't think I've ever been called a flower before. Thanks.
Because I just got the chills.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a beautiful honor. And so thank you for listening to our show. Stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you've enjoyed this show, we would absolutely love and be grateful for a 5-star written review on iTunes. And of course, please share the love by sharing it with your friends. And if you want to support the work that we're doing, please consider making a donation to our show by visiting our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast. And until next time, love yourself, love each other, and love the world. We love you guys.
Love you guys. Take care. We'll talk to you later.
We at Be the Love Podcast are honored to be supporting the Kamoti Foundation, which is the nonprofit organization in Uganda that is working to build a school that will promote and support healthcare, education, skills development, feeding the hungry, human rights, and environmental defenders. Their goal is to work with young mothers and single mothers, street children, and vulnerable families who lack nurture as they guide them to become productive individuals, which will lead to a productive generation. Please see our show notes on how to become a donor, mentor, volunteer, or sponsor.
Thank you, Heather Lynn, for providing us with your beautiful song to accompany our show, Be the Love. If you would like to learn more about Heather Lynn and her music, please visit her website at heatherlynnmusic.com. And thank you, Chrissy Grace at Leading Edge Productions for the beautiful design and graphics.
And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we are souls on the journey. And thank you for hopping on the Ascension bus with us. And remember, there is always a seat for you.